Let's take you straight across to our top story on the show this evening. You can call it a very well-timed FDI blitzkrieg from the Modi government. The centre today opened the floodgates for dollar rushing, hiking the foreign investment cap in critical sectors like defence, civil aviation, pharmaceutical and DTH services. As per the new norms, non-aviation foreign companies will be allowed to own up to 100% in scheduled carriers, while multinationals can invest in airport development as well. With an aim to give a big push to the Make in India campaign, the defence equipment sector has been completely opened up. And in what really comes as a big breather for iPhone maker Apple, the government has eased the local sourcing norms for single brand retail companies as well.
The complete overhaul of India's FDI regime took investors by surprise, who were treading slow on fears of the adverse impact of RBI Governor Raghuram Rajan's decision to retire in September. Benchmark indices wiped out their losses to end almost 1% up. Even the rupee recouped most of its losses, while many believe that the government may have timed the announcement with the exit of Raghuram Rajan. Commerce and Industry Minister Nirmala Sitharaman ruled this out. In exclusive chat with ET Now, she said these reforms have been in the works for some time now and they're an ongoing process. The FDI blitzkrieg and its impact on industry and markets. That's our top story on India Tonight.
Brexit and Brexit. These two words together stoked fears of top dollar exiting India. But Prime Minister Narendra Modi just pulled an ace up his sleeve. In a bid to attract long-term capital and push ease of doing business, the government today opened floodgates of FDI across not one, not two, but 9 sectors, including aviation, defence, pharmaceuticals, single-brand retail and food manufacturing.
The aspirational Indian youth will now have clear-cut investments made in different sectors where they can contribute, and jobs will be the focus. And therefore, manufacturing hub with creation of jobs are the twin-fold objectives, having already launched the initiative of Make in India.
In its second major reform after the last radical changes announced in November 2015, the government has allowed up to 100% FDI in brownfield pharmaceuticals. While 74% FDI will be allowed under automatic route, government approval beyond 74% will continue. While in defence, foreign investment up to 100% will be permitted. FDI beyond 49% will be permitted through government approval in cases of modern technology. The earlier conditionality of state-of-art technology has been done away with. After the aviation policy, a big push has come in for the aviation sector. New Delhi will now allow full foreign ownership under automatic route in brownfield airport projects, up from the previous 74% in a bid to aid modernization of Indian airports. Also, 100% foreign investment will now be permitted in scheduled airlines, with 49% under automatic route and beyond via the government approval. Under the previous rule, FDI was capped at 49%. For single brand retail, 30% sourcing norms have been relaxed to up to 3 to 5 years, a move that will push the contentious proposal by Apple. In food manufacturing sector, 100% FDI under government approval route has been permitted for trading, including through e-commerce, to promote food products manufactured or produced in India. Entry routes for broadcasting carriage services have also been eased. And lastly, 100% FDI will be allowed in animal husbandry and 74% in private security agencies. In fact, in some cases, the mandatory conditionality of RBI approval and ministry approvals have also been done away with.
The view was, let us try to make the process as simple as possible and make everything process driven instead of sort of putting various kinds of clearances that is required. This again strengthens the message of maximum governance and minimum government.
Experts say the new FDI norms are in line with the government's effort to streamline foreign investment. While the new FDI liberalization will help in attracting foreign investment, one cannot help but question the timing. While the move is well-intentioned, this will definitely go down as a masterstroke by Modi government to woo the top dollar, which is stable and won't just stay here for long, but will also help generate jobs. Ruchi Bhatia and Krishanu Mukherjee, ET Now, New Delhi.
All right, let's get you a big policy voice on the government side and the move to open the FDI floodgates. This is, of course, a Times Network exclusive. Commerce and Industry Minister Nirmala Sitharaman believes that the government's decision to open up sectors to foreign investments will increase the competitiveness of Indian industry, but does add that the government's decision to do away with local sourcing norms is not set in stone and that big boys like Apple will have to apply afresh.
She also says that timing of the government's announcement and Raghuram Rajan's decision to leave Mint Street is just a mere coincidence. Here he is in a network exchange, an exclusive conversation with Supriya and Anand Narasimhan of Times Now.
The way in which we've opened up, the way in which we have eased norms, I guess they will be equally competing for investments, and each sector has the potential in itself. Because take for instance pharmaceuticals.
Right.
India has already made a global impression on generic drugs, and we have great potential in that area too. So each sector will compete, and there are investment opportunities being created, interests being shown by many overseas investors in every one of these sectors. So I may not be able to put a number today to all that, but then yes, there are opportunities waiting to be materialized.
Ma'am, there was a big demand from the retail industry, and the single brand retailers were requesting you for months now that their local sourcing norms should be eased, and I think you've done that. Would you just expound upon that a little bit, exactly what has happened, because I think retailers across the board would want to know on this one.
The local sourcing norms have not been completely thrown out of the window, as you've seen it. We have said that for such goods which come with, state-of-the-art goods, I keep repeating that expression, but although that's out of the paper, but you know what we mean, that when unique products come in, we do not want a local sourcing requirement to immediately put them off, but we have said the first 3 years you could do it here without those norms, but gradually, in percentages, in proportionate terms, gradually you would have to comply with it. 4th year, 5th year onwards, you will have to do it. And therefore, we have not completely done away with the local sourcing requirements, but only given the first 3 years so that they can set it up and gradually comply with it.
So does Apple need to reapply for a nod to be given?
Well, the norms have been expounded now. I guess, yes, it will mean that they can always approach us again. We are not doing the policy for any one particular company, but whoever wishes to apply, whoever wishes to contact us again on this, they can approach the government.
Is this the final question, Ms. Sitharaman? Is this going to be backed with ease of? How are you going to work in terms of ease of doing business? In terms of people who are ready to invest now, given you're relaxing the norms, but how are you going to match the ease of doing business, of setting up shop, of coming in, this money coming in for them setting up? That was a yes. And do we see a drop in interest rates?
Business is an ongoing activity. We are, as you know, in the first year we had identified 98 critical things on which states cooperated with us, and they removed the hurdles on those identified 98 categories. The subsequent years we have come up with, this year we have come up with about 340, which all of them are happy to comply with. So the ease of doing business is not something which is a concluded exercise. We shall be working on it. The ease of doing business is a high priority. Make in India initiative really depends on ease of doing business, and that shall continue. This policy on FDI that we've come up with is to continue the exercise which we started in November 2015, keeping in mind the Make in India and ease of doing business as the priority for this government, because through Make in India and ease of doing business, we want to make India a manufacturing hub, and that cannot be lost out on everything that we're doing. We remember that everywhere.
The narrative that began this morning, and it looks like your government has been able to do a lot of damage control with this announcement, was Raghuram Rajan's exit and the damage it would have caused one of the reasons why you decided to announce this path-breaking policy decisions today?
Supriya, I have answered this before, but I will certainly say it again. These are things which don't happen overnight. They cannot be decisions taken on these major initiatives, major reform-based steps overnight. Nothing can happen within 24 hours. These are things on which we've been working working last few months. And once the natural conclusion, logical end was reached, we have announced the policy. It so happens it is today.
Just a coincidence, says Nirmala Sitharaman, the Commerce and Industry Minister. Make what you want of that. Now, the government's decision to usher in big FDI reforms sent stocks soaring across sectors, because these were reforms across 9 sectors of the economy. Ajay Sharma looked into these sectors in closer detail and is here with the impact on specific stocks of the government's slew of FDI reforms. Ajay, take it away.
Well, today the market rally got a lot of fuel from the government side, which actually went ahead and announced liberalized FDI norms for a host of sectors, and the related stocks were seen flying around in trade. Defense was, one area. Of course, this has been a focus area for the government for long, but up till now there were thresholds up till which foreign direct investment was allowed. They've gone ahead and hiked that threshold. So we saw Bharat Forge, Astra Microwave, BEL, all these defense-related companies, gain very smartly in trade. Aviation, just shortly after announcing the aviation policy, again where a lot of norms were eased. Now the ownership norms in aviation companies, aviation-related businesses have also been eased, and we saw SpiceJet, Jet Airways, all of those, Indigo, gain very smartly in trade. Other areas also have been liberalized in terms of FDI, DTH. So we saw Dish TV and Sun TV gain smartly in trade. Private securities, of course, there are hardly any listed companies in that space, but animal husbandry within the pharma sector. So we saw Hatsun Agro, Sequent Scientific, stocks like those gain smartly in trade. Single brand retail is also an area where FDI norms have been liberalized. So a clutch of stocks were gaining very smartly in trade in hopes that foreign direct investment will start pouring in either directly in these companies or some of the subsidiaries of these companies. Not all of them may be open to dilute, but at least the valuation landscape with additional capital coming in from the foreign shores definitely tends to change for a large group of companies because of these norms.
All right, for more on that, we are joined by 2 very big voices on the show this evening. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant and Shaktikanta Das, the Economic Affairs Secretary, also joining in on the show this evening. Thank you, gentlemen, and I know both of you are architects of the decisions that have really been made today. So it's really indeed a pleasure to be talking to both of you this evening. 2 of India's top bureaucrats with us right here at TT Now. But Mr. Kant, let me begin with you. Big bold moves, but question raised on the timing of the announcement. Did the government try to change sentiment, change the narrative by announcing a slew of FDI reforms today and try and counter the whole Brexit sentiment?
It's nothing to do with Raghuram Rajan. This work has been in progress for the last several weeks. Several rounds of meetings have been held. These were discussed at several levels for the last few weeks, and it has nothing to do with Mr. Rajan at all. And our belief is that one individual doesn't make a difference. Our belief is that the macroeconomic fundamentals of India's economy are absolutely sound and fine, and our belief is that a vast number of radical changes and policy measures have been taken by government, including FDI policy changes earlier, to put India on a sound economic footing. I mean, FDI changes, bankruptcy laws, vast number of changes have been made by government, and India is well on track. And I think one individual moving from one place to another will not make an impact on India's economy at all.
All right, so the man at Niti Aayog says this isn't anything to do with Raghuram Rajan, but Mr. Shaktikanta Das, want to ask you about the timing of this move. This could have been well done on a Friday or on a Tuesday or any other day of this week. Why particularly today?
To the extent that this comes just about 6-7 months after the November reforms. In November, if you remember, large number of FDI liberalization measures were announced, and this comes after that. Now, all decisions of the government, it's work in progress. As and when it reaches a certain stage of finality, decisions are taken and announced. So there is no question of timing the decision and the announcement of the decision. It is just a question of it just so happens that the decision had matured and a decision was taken today. There's nothing beyond that.
Nothing beyond that. Find that hard to believe, but that's the word coming in from 2 top bureaucrats. But Mr. Kant, what sort of FDI inflows do you expect on the back of these decisions? A slew of sectors in which we've seen a fair amount of liberalization. What sort of FDI inflows is the government expecting?
Our target should be nothing less than $100 billion per year. Nothing less than that. In fact, next year we should really go all out and promote and market India. Nothing less than 100 billion, and I think the year after that we should go for $150 billion US. We should really focus on increasing inflows by $50 billion per year. Nothing less than that. And India is capable of doing that. India is capable of attracting investment. India is capable of attracting technology. India is capable of attracting the best companies from across the world. And India is rightly poised to do that.
Okay, let's get down to specifics. Let's get down to sectors. Let's talk about the aviation sector. On the face of it, a very bold reform that's been undertaken by the government to allow up to 100% FDI in the sector. But how is the government going to get over the security bogey? What is the caveat? The fact that international carriers can only have up to 49% ownership.
You see, the takeover is not likely to happen, because what we have said, foreign airlines cannot invest more than 49% in Indian aviation, in passenger airlines or in transport services, scheduled passenger airlines. Foreign airlines cannot invest. Other kinds of investors can come in. Now you have the DGCA, who is the licensing authority, who is the regulatory authority for the aviation sector. And security clearances are internally taken in matters of aviation. Security clearances before granting license, security clearances are taken when there are new inductions of, when there are, let's say, a new management coming in. The new management also would require a security clearance, which internally the DGCA will obtain from the concerned authorities. So therefore, security concerns of the government are fully addressed in the policy, and no security aspect is being diluted in any manner.
No security aspect is diluted. I completely get your point. But Mr. Khan, the question is really coming your way. For years now, we haven't had aviation as a sector open up to FDI because of the entire security bogey. That was too sensitive a sector to allow foreign operators to come in and have larger stakes. So A, how did you tide over that security concern and the security lobby really? And the other question is the question that, Sandeep put forward to Shaktikanta here, that is there an imminent fear of global carriers coming in and taking over domestic operators?
Well, Supriya, the opening up economies is a function of political courage and not of monetary policies, to my mind. It requires a great amount of political courage to open up in the way India's opened up in the last 2 years. And I think civil aviation sector and again demonstrates there was determination to move forward in these sectors, because the per capita usage of airlines in India is still very low. We need to open up our regions, we need to open up new airports, and we need carriers for that, and you need more investment. And in fact, Indian carriers who are operating today need capital. It's a capital intensive sector. Allow these investments to come in. And I think this FDI inflow will enable these carriers to have more and more aircrafts, which will then enable them to fly into regional areas. And last week, the government had announced a very progressive civil aviation policy which looks at opening up regional airports. And therefore, you need aircraft to move into these areas. And therefore, it's a step in the right direction.
Indeed, a step in the right direction, but let's talk about the other specific sector that has been opened up, and to everybody's surprise, 100% FDI in defense was something that not many people saw coming. But what sort of interest, Mr. Khan, do you expect to be generated out of this one move? And the other question really is that Indian defense players, rather nascent in the game, so to say, do not have such deep pockets or access to cutting-edge technology like some of their global peers do. Could they be completely marginalized? Is that a concern?
Yeah, so my belief is what the government has done away is the concept of state of the art. It still says that up to 49% is automatic. Beyond that, in case of modern technology, you can go up to 100%. And my view is that, defense manufacturing is a monopsony. That is, the government is the only buyer, actually. And therefore, the government will has restructured several things in defense, including the licensing policy. But it will roll out orders in the coming days. It will roll out a lot of orders in the coming days, and that should lead to many more investors coming into India and manufacturing here. But you will find it very difficult for international companies to come in and manufacture here all on their own. So they will look for Indian companies. And a classic example of all this is if you look at BAE partnering Mahindras, if you look at Lockheed partnering Tatas, if you look at Skorovsky, they are partnering Tata. So all of them will look for Indian partners. Bharat Forge has partnered several international companies, and therefore I think eventually the Indian companies which have got into defense, and many more should get in, will be the big beneficiary of this move.
Let's talk about the retail sector as well, because the government has also eased sourcing of norms for retail. Comes just weeks after Apple CEO Tim Cook visited India, met Prime Minister Modi as well. That's been a contentious issue, a bit of difference of opinion between the industry ministry and the finance ministry as well. But tell us, what's going to be the fallout of this relaxation now, Mr. Das? Will Apple have to apply again?
No. I mean, no demand is no decision is taken specific to any particular company's request, and if one application has been rejected, naturally they will have to apply afresh under the new policy. Only pending applications will be examined with reference to the new policy, but once a decision has been taken in a particular application and the decision has been communicated, if he wants a modification of that decision, he has to apply afresh.
But how is it that the government is going to define cutting-edge technology? That's at the crux of this whole issue, isn't it? Isn't IPR a more scientifically defined thing? I mean, how is the government really going to go about defining cutting-edge technology?
No, I think the term cutting edge no more finds place. That is precisely the difficulty which was encountered. So therefore, the phrase cutting edge has now been removed, and so therefore it is now far simpler. And one thing, I have to say, I mean, we have to see the, we have to see the whole, the broad spirit behind the, the direction in which these decisions have been taken, the direction of these reforms. The direction of these reforms is towards bringing in more investment, creating more jobs, and continuing with the process of reforms. I think that is the main point which one should understand. And once the detailed FDI policy circular is issued by the Department of Industrial Policy and Promotion, I think many of the questions which your other participants and stakeholders you are referring to, whatever questions they have raised, I am sure the detailed policy guidelines will clarify almost all those doubts if they have any.
All right, let's quickly wrap it up by talking about the other specific area, and that's Pharma FDI, Mr. Kant. Brownfield and greenfield differentiation, of course, has been done away with, but Indian pharma companies have really been at the receiving end as far as the US regulator is concerned. I mean, the files have been, I know, tossed from the pharma ministry to industry and back to pharma, but how will things really change with the FDI cap being increased?
So, Supriya, India is really the pharmacy of the world. India has been a great generic producer. It has enabled medicine to be provided at very low price points across Asia and Africa. And I think Indian pharmacy company has done extremely well. And, actually, if you look at it, earlier there was this move of international companies coming in and buying Indian companies, but in the last 1 year, we've seen Indian companies buy international companies. We've seen Sun Pharma buying over the Daiichi's investment in Ranbaxy and so on. So I think what the policy now does is to say that up to 74%, even in brownfield investments, you can get FDI. And I think many of these companies here want to expand in a very big way. They want to grow, they want to become global size, they want to do new innovation, they want to bring in technology. Let Indian companies go ahead, bring in FDI, let them grow, expand, give them the opportunity to bring in technology. And you can go up to 100% in cases of greenfield. So this is a big step forward.
But Mr. Kant, whatever you may do and whatever push New Delhi is trying to make, the last mile connectivity really rests with the states, and no matter what you do, it's going to be their call and their ability to attract foreign capital. Is that a sort of an area of concern, because this is largely outside the domain of central government?
No, states are doing extremely well. Actually states are competing. The amount of movement I'm seeing on states, I've never seen this before. On the 344 points, every state is working, and every chief secretary is working, every chief minister is working. They're really competing with each other. I mean, I've never seen this momentum ever before. Every state is wanting to become number one in ease of doing business. And I think it's one of the big things that we've allowed competition to come in on. And this business of naming and shaming is really working as far as ease of doing business. Actually, many states have moved forward, and I think what we are seeing is a very big revolutionary movement as far as ease of doing business is concerned in states today.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow, and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.